It gives the backyard a good cleaning. Their schoolroom is the great outdoors, and they're going to their reading, writing, and arithmetic in a big way. The missionary teachers told us that they very seldom had to mark a student absent. We're going to take you first to the islands of the New Hebrides group. This is a French and British possession. Now, when we approach a cannibal island, it's advisable to anchor the boat off a wide beach, so that when you go ashore in your small boats, the water's edge will be quite a ways from the jungle. You won't see the natives at first. They'll be back in the bush, watching you just as suspiciously, perhaps, as you'll watch them. And they have very good reason to be suspicious of a white man. You may have to spend several days at the water's edge displaying trinkets before the natives come out of the bush. They first send out the small boys, and if nothing happens to the small boys, then the men come out. They'll bring out pigs and chickens, vegetables and fruit to trade for the trinkets they know we'll have for them. Pipes, tobacco, and pouches, beads and little ornaments. Anything you can buy in a 10-cent store has great value in their eyes. These are real cannibals. They're the Melanesian type. And the pipe was the favorite article we had. They wanted some paint. The only thing we had was enamel. They took it and painted their faces with it. It was guaranteed not to come off with steam or hot water, so I guess they're still wearing it. They have the mentality of 3 or 4-year-old children and the bodies of adults. These hats were supposed to frighten undesirable visitors away from their island, and they didn't want us to go back into the interior. This always worked on the superstitious tribes from other islands, but naturally it had no effect on us, so they finally gave it up and disappeared in the jungle. Sometime later, when we followed them, we found their village, a very evil, vile-smelling place. We found the men and boys living in a compound by themselves. The women live with the pigs. The man's compound is absolutely taboo to women. If a woman enters a man's compound, she is killed instantly. That may sound silly in this day of civilization, but I assure you it's one of the many brutal customs practiced by the cannibals of the New Hebrides. A cannibal has one virtue: he will generally tell the truth. We asked these fellows if they had eaten human flesh, and they grinned and grunted and readily admitted it. But they also admitted that they preferred the flesh of the black man to that of the white man. They claim that a white man smells bad and tastes salty. And that is very likely true, because every race has its own particular body musk. The deep note of the tom-tom has called in these savages from all over the island for this ceremony. And deep in the jungle they have clearings called Sing Sing grounds, where they hold their hideous feasts. The cannibal woman is not permitted to eat human flesh, but she prepares it for cooking. One of these ceremonies starts with a dance early in the morning. It starts in an orderly manner, but as the hours go by, the men become frenzied. They tear their hair, they scream like demons, tear off their covering, if any, and they dance until they fall exhausted. They're kicked out of the way and others take their places. The whole spectacle is a very disgusting and revolting one to a white man. Then in the afternoon, they bring in the pigs. They sacrifice some of the male pigs to the gods, and the men dance with the female pigs. They go through many repulsive and obscene actions which naturally the censors would not permit us to show in a moving picture theater. We show this ceremony up to the point where the censors compelled us to cut it. But when we got to Malekula, our next stop, we found tribes equally as low in the scale of civilization. We were at Malekula Island about 10 days before we could get these natives out of the jungle in a group. They'd come out one or two at a time, but we wanted a group picture. It was impossible to go back in the jungle and photograph them due to the fact that the light at noon is just like twilight. This is due to the dense vegetation. We finally got them out on the beach and made pictures of the boys first. The boys are not too hard looking, although they do have very cruel eyes and treacherous mouths. But the adults are very fierce and very treacherous. Every man wears a piece of bamboo through the cartilage of the nose. And among these savages, too, the pipe was the favorite article. We have found that no matter how primitive a race, it knows how to smile. You're apt to wonder when a cannibal smiles at you what he's thinking, and you're pretty apt to hope he isn't thinking of calories. Here's a jolly little playmate. Many of them had guns, and they claimed that they had killed white men for them. You can believe this because it's about the only way they can get a gun. It's a very serious crime against the British government to sell them guns or ammunition. And that's the thing that they want more than anything else. A missionary boat put into this bay, and Captain Salisbury held a reception aboard. Captain Salisbury is the man with the shirt. These cannibals came out to the missionary boat to listen to the organ. They call it the Sing Sing Bacchus. They can't say box, they say Bacchus. Now, these being the best-dressed men in the tribes, we decided to have a style show. We're going to show you what the well-dressed cannibal will wear this year. Captain Salisbury had made a previous trip to this island, and he had a copy of Asia containing pictures of these men which he had taken. They got a great bang out of seeing their own pictures in that publication. The Solomon Islands belonged to the British, and here we found both cannibals and headhunters. There's a large island of Malaita in this group, and years ago the bush cannibals drove the shore cannibals away. The survivors took up refuge on coral reefs that surround this island of Malaita, and during the past several hundred years they've been going back to the mainland, bringing out canoe loads of rocks and dirt. They've built those small islands up until they can live on them very comfortably.